For the first 6 months of the Pacific War, the Mitsubishi Zero was more than just a fighter. It was a psychological weapon that convinced Allied pilots they were fighting a ghost. It was faster, lighter, and more lethal than anything we put in the air. And its 12-to-1 kill ratio was turning the ocean into a graveyard for American aviators. The official strategy was simple and terrifying. If you see a Zero, run away. But everything changed during a diversionary raid on Dutch Harbor in June 1942. A 19-year-old Japanese pilot named Tadayoshi Koga took a single hit to his oil line from a ground-based machine gun. Trailing a dark plume, he scrambled toward Akutant Island, a designated emergency landing zone where a submarine waited in the shadows to pluck him from the water. He spotted a flat, inviting green meadow and lowered his landing gear, unaware that the Aleutian landscape was a lie. The meadow was actually a treacherous, waterlogged muskeg bog. The moment his wheels touched the muck, they dug in like anchors, flipping the 2,500-pound fighter onto its back and snapping Koga's neck instantly. For over a month, the most valuable prize of the war sat upside down in the mud, hidden by fog and silence, until a PBY Catalina piloted by Bill Thies spotted the glint of metal through a break in the clouds. The recovery was a brutal, back-breaking slog through freezing, waist-deep water, but the Navy hauled that Akutan Zero out of the mire, crated it, and rushed it to San Diego. They didn't just want a trophy, they wanted to dissect the legend and find the crack in its armor.
In September 1942, Lieutenant Commander Eddie Sanders climbed into the cramped, lightweight cockpit of the captured Zero and became the first American to touch the soul of the enemy. The plane was built like a fine Swiss watch. No armor plating, no self-sealing fuel tanks, just raw engine and thin aluminum. Sanders took it up and was immediately mesmerized. At low speeds, the Zero didn't just fly, it danced. It could outturn a Spitfire and make a Wildcat look like it was flying through molasses. But as he pushed the Wright Cyclone-powered beast faster, the invincible machine began to groan under the pressure. Sanders hit 200 knots and tried to execute a hard bank to the right, and that's when he hit the wall. The control stick, which had been light as a feather moments before, suddenly felt as if it had been set in a block of frozen concrete. He pulled with every ounce of strength in both arms, but the plane stubbornly refused to roll. The physics were finally clear. At high speeds, the air pressure clamped the massive ailerons shut because the lightweight control cables simply couldn't overcome the force. The world's most feared dogfighter had a fatal dead zone. If you forced it into a high-speed dive and broke hard to the right, the Zero pilot was physically incapable of following you. Sanders also discovered that a sudden nose-down maneuver would cause the float-style carburetor to cut out, momentarily killing the engine. In 24 test flights, he had found the key to breaking the Japanese Empire's grip on the sky.
The intelligence gathered from the Akutan Zero was flashed to every carrier and airfield in the Pacific, turning the tide of the air war almost overnight. We stopped trying to outmaneuver the Zero in the low and slow dogfights where it was king, and we started playing a different game entirely. The new doctrine was boom and zoom. Dive from high altitude, strike with overwhelming force, and always, always brake to the right at maximum speed. This data arrived at the perfect moment to refine the Grumman F6F Hellcat, which was designed with the armor, the power, and the hydraulic-boosted controls specifically meant to exploit the Zero's high-speed freezing. The psychological mask was gone. The Zero was no longer a ghost. It was just a fragile machine with a mistake built into its wings. In the hands of pilots who now knew exactly where the dead zone was, the Hellcat achieved a staggering 19-to-1 kill ratio, effectively annihilating the Japanese Naval Air Service. The Great Marianas Turkey Shoot was the final proof, as American pilots obliterated hundreds of Japanese planes in a single day using the very tactics Sanders had pioneered in that captured cockpit. The war didn't end because we built a better plane. It ended because we captured the enemy's secrets and dared to fly them to the breaking point. The Akutan Zero was eventually destroyed in a freak taxiing accident in 1945, but by then its work was done. It had brought the invincible legend down to earth and shown us that even a ghost has a weakness if you know where to look.